be back at it. Went inside today because had a little bit of rain and wasn't quite sure how it was going to go. So 6 days. Today was, a good kind of middle of spring practice for us. Thought the guys were pretty consistent, competed hard. A lot of things we got to do, little small corrections that we got to make. But I think that we're starting to feel a little bit more comfortable and get more dialed in. And guys that have made position changes are starting to get a little more settled. So I feel good about, about where we are today. We've stayed healthy thus far and got a lot of work done. So it was kind of one of those, like I said, middle of the road spring practices that guys got out and grinded through it and got better. So was happy to see kind of the performance of our guys today.
Coach, you felt like a lot of red zone work today.
Yeah.
Is the approach or the attack in the red zone any different?
Yeah. So so what we do is we do some situational stuff. So it's always we're always trying to get better at situations. So Monday's practice was 2-minute and third down primarily. Worked a lot of third and long situations. Today was more red zone, and then we spent some time coming off. And we do a lot of those things. Number one, you want to practice those plays, but then also gives you a lot of teaching moments. We had some plays when we were backed up today at the 2-yard line, that we'll be able to teach off of, where some guys made some mistakes and typical stuff like a holding in the end zone becomes a safety. And that putting our players in those situations allows us to teach and improve those things. As far as the red zone stuff goes, I think a lot of that just depends on how your offense starts to develop, and what kind of identity do you establish. I've always felt like obviously the key to being good at the red zone is being able to run the football as the field starts to shrink a little bit, and so we've got to continue to be able to do that. But I thought overall, and as I said, it's going to depend on some guys. Do guys emerge? Is there a go-to vertical threat? Is there somebody that your quarterback gets really comfortable with dumping the ball down to? I mean, just all these different things kind of play out, and so your red zone offense really gets determined by a couple of factors. Number one, how much does the defense change when you get in the red zone? Some people are drastically different. Some people don't change that much. And then the other factor is, you always want to put the ball in your best player's hands. Who are those guys? What are your plays that you're comfortable with? And, and then it's one of those deals that's always changing and evolving really up until, week one.
Coach, John made the move to center. It looked like he's getting a lot of reps there. What was kind of the thought process of moving him over there to that position?
Always the same. Just try to get the best 5 guys on the field. He played some center for us last year. But that's our biggest thing. Whether it's a receiver, whether it's an offensive line, you want to find the best 5 players and make sure those guys are getting the bulk of the reps up front on the offensive line. Same thing at wide receiver. Make sure your best 3 or 4 guys are getting the ball and opportunities. And so there's always some position stuff that shakes down. What I like about this group on the offensive line is, we're working with a lot of different combinations. We're bouncing some guys from inside to outside. We've got a number of different players that are repping at center. And so as the spring rolls along a little bit, we'll kind of get a better idea of who's comfortable doing what and what who do we have the most confidence in.
New offense, a lot of new faces. How satisfied are you with the progress, I guess, the teams?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, there's, I think some of the young guys are probably struggling to keep up a little bit with what we're inserting every day. You know what I mean? We're just kind of adding more and more stuff, and sometimes young guys' heads have a tendency to spin a little bit because they get kind of comfortable doing something. But that's what you do. You expose them to everything, and then your package is really big, and then you say, well, we don't need this, we don't need that, we can get rid of this, and we'll keep adding plays, for a couple more days, and then try to focus in on getting good at the stuff that we're doing, and really starting to establish an identity.
What would you say the biggest difference between Garrett's system last year and what Kendall wants to do this year?
It's not going to look much different, really, to the naked eye. I mean, it's probably more one-off stuff, what we're doing in terms of little nuanced plays and ways to get people the ball, the pocket's going to get moved a little bit more than it has in the past with some some true sprint out and some boots and some stuff that we didn't utilize as much last year. And again, a lot of that's going to be determined by, you know, what's our quarterback comfortable with, and how we're going to get the best players in space and get them the football and let them do what they do. So, you know, that's always evolving.
Speaking of that, Coach, comfortable with your quarterback, Josh, you know, he's changed his body.
Yeah.
Looks different. How comfortable are you?
Yeah, very much. I mean, the two guys right now we're really comfortable with. You know, again, 6 practices, still figuring everything out, but I've been really pleased with the play I've seen from both Chandler and Josh. You know, I think it's been better than I expected. I think what we're doing really fits their skill set. You know, so I think they're ahead of where I thought they'd be, both of them. And so I've been really pleased with that. I mean, Josh has made a huge jump. You know, you could see it last year. He didn't get a ton of reps. You know, but you could see him improving on the scout team. You know, he just was very accurate and competitive, and you could see him starting to move around a little bit better. And as you said, he's kind of remade his body a little bit, and really is moving well and has great pocket presence. I think that's, when you say what's the most underrated characteristic for a quarterback, and it's, you know, how do you respond to the pocket and in the pocket and bodies flying around. And some guys are comfortable with it and others aren't. And, you know, I think both of these guys are really good in the pocket and are comfortable operating within the pocket and make good decisions, and you know, have both improved that way.
So your early impressions of JoJo Earl coming in from Alabama?
Yeah, you know, fast playmaker. Been impressed with him. You know, he's a guy you can tell that's got experience. He just has picked things up really quickly, is adaptable. You know, as I said, just really explosive. You know, really good when he gets his hands on the football. Very fast accelerator, can start and stop. You know, all the things you want a slot receiver to be able to do, he's got it in his repertoire, and got good hands and has been consistent so far. I think, you know, there's some things we got to work on, just some practice habit stuff here and there. He's a little loose with the ball, and I mean, just things like that. But overall, I've been really impressed with what he's done, and he's trying to get better and improve, and he's got a great work ethic, and you can tell he wants to be good and wants to be productive. So I'm really excited about his future.
Coach, how excited are you about the corners right now, even with Josh not practicing?
Yeah,
cornerbacks.
a lot of guys out there. Yeah, you know, we didn't have much depth last year. I think there's going to be great competition for who's going to be the 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and really 6 deep at that position. Really, at times last year we were about 2 deep. And so I'm been impressed with the newcomers. I've been impressed with the guys that are a year better. Like I said, there's a lot of competition. You know, we got some more length than maybe we've had, and you know, the guys are competing really hard, and you can see glimpses of really good play, a little bit inconsistent here and there, but I've been impressed with all the new guys, and I think they're competing hard, and I think they all have a chance to help us. You know, we went through the 19 newcomers as a staff the other day, and you know, Jack hasn't done much, Besh and Jalen Robinson haven't done much just from a practice standpoint, but the other 17 guys that have been here practicing, I think we've all been really pleased with those guys. We feel like that every single one of them can help our program. You know, Jonathan Bax is a freshman early enrollee that's, you know, really opened everybody's eyes. I mean, he's a guy that consistently makes plays out there. Has probably been, you know, a really, really pleasant surprise 6 practices into the spring. So it's been good. I mean, you know, to go 19 for 19 with newcomers, I think is pretty unusual, and we have a feeling that is hopefully going to be that way, and going to continue. Those guys will continue to get better, and all be able to contribute to our team.
Obviously, at running back, you lost Kendra and Amari, but it seems like every practice, one of those guys is stepping up, making a big play. What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you go back and you look at last season. You know, Monty Bailey was, you know, made a bunch of explosive runs. He was one of those players that came out of the season and he said, well, I wish he would have had some more carries. But he's picked up where he left off. You know, Trey Sanders has done what you would expect him to do. You know, I like the group. I really do. It's competitive, and guys are competing hard. And, you know, I think right now we feel good about our depth that we have there. And, you know, we got to get better in some situations. But I like what I'm seeing from those guys.
I don't think you missed a home basketball game. The toughness of Jamie Dixon's guards, especially Mike Miles. Where would he play?
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I'm not gonna lie to you, I saw Mike play a couple times this year, and I'm like, man, this dude could play a bunch of different positions. I like to see him carry the football sometimes, so. Mike, if this other deal doesn't work out, you know, you might think you still got a year of eligibility, so we'd love to have you. Yeah, I mean, congrats to Coach Dixon, man. I love going to those basketball games. What an exciting team to watch. The guys play hard. They care about each other. It's fun to watch. You know, they got something special going in basketball, so it's fun to get to go watch it.
John Lance talked about how Steve Avila has been really impactful for him as
Yep.
he's transitioning center. How impactful has he been for you ahead of his pro day and just?
You talk about Steve? Yeah. I mean, you know, when you look at it last year, you kind of say, what was the strength of last year's team? And really, truly, it was leadership. You know, I think we had good players, and the guys performed well, and we, you know, played well in critical situations. But the thing that we had that I was most pleased with was just the leadership of our team. You know, and to me, Steve was the main guy. I mean, he really was. He was, you know, from day one, he just took responsibility. You know, when things were bad and things were good early on, you know, we were struggling kind of to understand the culture, and you know, all of a sudden Steve starts to shine a little bit. You start to see him step into these leadership situations, and you start to see how his team responds to him. And so it's obviously a heck of a player. He was a consensus All-American. You know, that speaks for itself, but at the same time, as valuable as he was as a player, he was more valuable as a leader. Just great will to win, great consistent effort, emotionally stable, dealt with success and adversity the same. I mean, just all the stuff great leaders do. He was that way for us. So I think that's going to be, as I said, he's a heck of a player, but I think the bigger void will be that leadership void. And, you know, we've got to get some guys to step up and do it. And I'm starting to see some signs of it, but we're not there yet.
We'll go two more questions.